Hello, everybody, and welcome to the debut episode of the Pirates in the Field podcast, brought to you by the College of Human Development and Culture and Media and the Center for Sports Media at Seton Hall University, produced by SHUTV. My name's Manny Pereira. Next to me is Niamh Campbell, who will be doing this podcast alongside. I think this is going to be awesome. So what this is going to be, we'll just get into kind of the overview of what this will be going forward. When it comes to this podcast, we're going to do it all year long, especially during this semester. It's going to be a loaded semester. The Center for Sports Media usually sends students to a lot of big events, which Niamh has been to a few, so maybe she'll get into some things that she's been able to do. And we want to give that as much exposure as possible. We're going to be doing something very cool this summer, which we'll get into as well. And we'll do that by, throughout the year, bringing the people who will be going to these events, talking about the events that are like analyzing what's going on, which we're going to be doing as well, and also talking about their experiences. So I'm very excited for our experience that we're going to have this summer and for what this will entail going forward.
No, this is going to be a great summer, Manny. So this episode is the World Cup edition. So Manny and I, thanks to Seton Hall, are being sent to the World Cup to work as runners for Fox. So we're really looking forward to that experience. But we thought, why not bring you a little bit of analysis, a little bit of behind the scenes action as well. So that's what we're going to be doing with this podcast, starting it off, like you said. The Pirates in the Field program, so many events throughout the year. We've got the Super Bowl, the World Series, everything that you can think of, we're going to. So bringing everybody in to kind of talk about their experiences and everything going on at those sporting events. So kicking it off in style with the World Cup this summer.
Yeah, I remember making a presentation in class about the Center for Sports Media, and I asked a question. I said, what are the biggest sporting events? I just asked the class, like with no context. And they mentioned, a lot of them mentioned the World Cup. A lot of them mentioned the World Series. A lot of them mentioned, obviously, the Super Bowl. And I was like, yeah, we're going to be at all of them. When I was talking about the center, we're going to have students at all those places. And why not start with probably not just the biggest sporting event in the world, maybe the biggest event in the entire world. We're going to be there. Not only are we just going to be there, we're not just going to sit there, look pretty, and like fans. We're going to work, which is awesome. I mean, it's experience that is so invaluable, and I'm thrilled.
Oh, same. And to be able to say that we're working the final as well,
Yeah.
happening, at MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, we're going to be there. I mean, I can't wait, and I can't wait to get this podcast going too.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's not waste any more time. As Niamh said, we're going to talk about the World Cup itself, about and analyze what's going on, give you guys a little bit of insight of this new format and everything that it entails, everything that's coming to the table. And then also as time goes on, and especially in our last episode, we're going to talk about our experience at the World Cup. We're going to spend 10 days in MetLife Stadium. That's how big the set is. That's how big the production is, that we got to be there for 10 days just to get ready for the final. So I'm thrilled. But yeah, let's get into what this World Cup is going to look like, Niamh.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing that we need to talk about is the expansion of teams. So every World Cup in the past has been 32 teams. You go straight into a round of 16 in the knockout stage, but not this year. What we are doing is we are getting 48 teams in the group stages. We're going from Group A to Group L, so there's going to be lots of games going on, and that means that we're going to have a round of 32 now, so additional knockout games that are going to be happening, more teams seeing that playoff action. That's going to leave us by the end of this tournament with 104 fixtures, which is absolutely crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. A lot of soccer to watch, football to watch. I don't know which term we're going to use throughout this podcast. Maybe I'll say soccer and Niamh will say football, but I'm thrilled. And also geographically entails a few differences. Usually you have a host nation. Well, we have a host continent this year. The entirety of North America will be hosting the World Cup. For the United States, it's the second time, first since 1994, that we'll have the World Cup here on home soil. Mexico gets their third World Cup ever, which is pretty cool. And the Aztec Stadium, El Estadio Azteca, is going to be insane. That atmosphere is going to be nuts. And Canada gets to host for the first time. So a little bit of differences. Here are the cities for the World Cup this year. Wrote them down. We're going to have games in Philly, Houston, New Jersey, Mexico City, Dallas, Seattle, Atlanta, Vancouver. Did I say Kansas City? I don't think I did. Obviously, we mentioned Los Angeles. I have the list right here. I knew I had it together. Okay, San Francisco, Seattle. Obviously, we said New York, Guadalajara, Monterrey, and Toronto. So I'm pretty sure I covered all the cities there. A lot of big cities, a lot of big atmospheres, and a lot of tourism in these places as well. So traffic is going to be nuts.
No, the amount of money that is coming into these 3 countries right now is going to be ridiculous. I mean, you just talked about traffic. I'm seeing all of these TikToks right now where it's literally like everybody preparing to get to the stadiums and it's people running across the highways.
Yeah.
Like, unfortunately, I think we're actually going to see that happening. Like, I wouldn't be shocked. But, you know, we've talked about kind of the expansion of the teams and the countries, but speaking about the game itself, one thing I wanted to mention was the AI avatars that are being introduced for the video assistant referee, or the VAR. This means that every single player from all 48 teams is going to be digitally scanned to have a 3D model to assist in offside calls. And what they say is this is going to help with precise player identification and tracking, and is going to be a step up from the offside technology that we're seeing now. And it's so important because it is going to give a precise ratio for players. You might have one player, you know, running around at 5'8", and the next one is 6'6". This is really going to help FIFA and the officials be able to get these more accurate calls and in a faster time too, for everyone to be able to understand. But you know, we've talked about this a little bit when we were preparing. It's not only going to affect, you know, the game itself. What are you seeing in this change?
Yeah, so obviously what this will bring is more accuracy, which is good for the integrity of the game. It helps us pick the right team to win. Now, one thing that I instantly thought of that perhaps is getting overlooked is home field advantage and how much that might get a little bit diminished with this, because AI, what does it take out, and what is the entire world complaining about? It takes out the human element. And part of the human element in soccer, or in any sport actually, is that the referees are human. And when you're in an atmosphere, like we're watching the NBA, we saw, I mentioned when we were talking off the air, right, the Western Conference Finals. If anyone here watches basketball, you saw that in Oklahoma City, when the Thunder were at home, the whistle was a lot more favorable for them in those games than it was in San Antonio. And it's not because referees favor the home team. It's just when the crowd and the atmosphere is that crazy, you kind of don't want to be that guy to make a call and lower that and stop that and get yelled at and heckled and things of that nature. So we know that, especially in Mexico, by the way, which I think is probably going to be and I'm American, so I probably shouldn't admit this, but to be honest, Mexico and the Aztec Stadium, when Mexico plays there, that might be the most rowdy home crowd in this tournament. And it may not play to as much as to their advantage as it would without this system. I don't think it's going to be crazy, but I do think it's interesting, the fact that this AI might lower a little bit the impact of home field advantage.
I mean, Aztec Stadium is going to be the first game as well on June 11th. So, I mean, if we want to have a look at the impact, we'll see it straight away.
We'll see it right away.
One.
Yeah, no doubt about it. So 7 minutes, we're about 8 minutes in. So why don't we just go into our predictions, because we're going to make predictions, and we want to be right by the end of this tournament. And there's a lot of debate going on, as there is every 4 years and with every sport, so many great teams. Niamh, I want you to tell me, we'll start right away with the good stuff. Who is your champion in this World Cup?
So as much as I would love to say England, and while deep down I do believe that it is coming home, I am going to have to say France is going to be lifting the trophy this year. I think from everything that I've seen in their past couple of games, kind of looking at the squad that they're bringing in, I think that they overall are the most threatening team. I think that I remember vividly watching the friendly that they played against Brazil, and everyone's like, oh, it's a friendly, you know, whatever. Friendlies give you confidence. Mm-hmm. They really do. Getting that 2-1 win against Brazil, that really stood out to me. To have Mbappe coming in off of a 40-goal season in all competitions, Dembele being the most recent FIFA Best Men's Player of the Year, 22 goals, 29 assists in all competition. I think that France have a team that can put together a real run and be able to come out as the champions in this one.
Yeah, and in a lot of lists, you do see them having maybe 3 of the top 10 players in this tournament. And Mbappe obviously being a superstar. And we saw what he did in the last World Cup. We're going to talk about a team that we do not have high hopes about for this tournament, or at least not as high as others. because they won the last World Cup and they're kind of in a weird time in terms of the timeline of some of their young players rising up and some of their older guys going away. And it's hard to repeat. And that's kind of our take. It's just hard to repeat. We're obviously Argentina is who we're talking about, which we'll get into in a later time. But France was the closest team to repeat that we've seen in this tournament in a long time in 2022, where Mbappe had one of the more heroic games in a loss that you'll ever see, especially on such a grand stage. So I do like this team a lot. I think they're one of the favorites. The only reason I don't have them in the final is because I have them playing against my champion in the semifinal. But if I had to pick another team other than my champion, I do think France is the second best team in this tournament, even though I don't have them in second place. I have them in third. So I like that take. Now, I want to ask you a question before we move on from France. If Mbappe wins this World Cup again, and he's still under 30 years old, what does this mean in terms of the pecking order and his all-time trajectory when we're talking about GOAT status? Because he might be flirting with that.
I think that if Mbappe can get a World Cup trophy under his belt, he would definitely be in the trajectory to be in the conversation. I'm not going to say that he's immediately at Messi or Ronaldo conversation. I don't think that he would be there yet. I think that the World Cup would be a great kind of jump as we talk about going into that next tier of the conversation. But I think that with his recent move to Real Madrid, he's got some stuff to prove in domestic play first. Then let's go see France get a Euro as well. If Mbappe can do that, if he can get a Euro with France, if he can really help Real Madrid. I mean, we saw them lose to Barcelona this year in La Liga. So I think that if he can really solidify himself as someone who can take these teams to the top stage of a competition and win, I think that's when we start putting him in that conversation seriously.
Yeah, I think, too, it wouldn't be crazy, depending on how you do this, and this is probably entirely subjective, tiers, right? We always have tiers of rankings. Mbappe might be, after this, if you have like 2 or 3 guys in your tier 1, depending on how you do this, maybe a tier 2, tier 3 all-time player ever, which is insane at his age. And I think if he would have won the last World Cup with that performance, I think it gets a little overlooked because they lost. I wonder what the conversation would be if they won that game. It'd be very different. And it went to penalty, so it wasn't like it was a bad overtime.
It would have been a completely different narrative, 100%.
So that's fascinating. Either way, we're going to see kind of all of this play out as we move forward. You mentioned a team and an issue with Mbappe was the fact that he lost in La Liga to Barcelona. And Barcelona, his entire team is pretty much on the Spanish team. They didn't know not one Real Madrid player on this roster. I want to talk about Spain and a specific one player on Spain, Lamine Yamal, who is literally younger than me, which is insane. And I'm going into my sophomore year of college. So that's crazy. And perhaps 2 of their best players, Pedri being one of their better players, is also like the age of your average grad student. He's 23 years old. This team is so young, yet so good. And they're the favorites in Vegas to win the entire tournament. And it has to do with the man we mentioned, Lamine Yamal.
And the favorite in your bracket, too, as well.
The favorite in my bracket, exactly. They're my champion. I think they're such a young, high-flying team. And we've seen in sports before. I really want to give the ball to Niamh on this when it comes to Yamal. But real quick, I'll say one thing, because a lot of people might say it's a little early. Although many people do consider Yamal to be definitely probably the most talented player in the world. And a lot of people already consider him objectively. He's the best player in the world at such a young age. But it can also be very easy to say, all right, give him 4 more years. Like next World Cup, he'll do it. He'll mature a little more. But I just think athletes right now are on a different level in terms of we don't go like we got to take history with more of a grain of salt. So I'll say one example. The Spurs in basketball. They shouldn't be in the NBA Finals. Even if they lose, in my opinion, they're playing house money. Why? Because if you look at history, in basketball history, this is their first playoff run. That's not really how it happens. Even the Thunder, right? They had to kind of get beat up a little bit. Most teams, Michael Jeffrey Jordan had to get swept by the Celtics, right? And take a few beatings against the Pistons. Like, it's just a process. It's normal. LeBron didn't win right away. And when France won with Mbappe at 18 years old, about the same age as Yamal, he had a Griezmann. right?
Yeah.
So who was more of a veteran player and scored like 1 billion goals in that tournament. I don't know if Yamal has that, but a lot of people say it doesn't matter. And I'm one of those people. It doesn't matter that he doesn't have that veteran superstar that he can kind of lean on, because I just think he's going to be enough of a superstar on his own to carry this team to his second World Cup since 2010.
No, exactly. I mean, I was looking through that roster as well when we were talking about this, prepping for this episode, and I was like, there is nobody on this roster right now who I see as kind of like that veteran who's going to kind of pull him under his wing, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yamal is that guy right now for Spain, but the biggest thing for me is, can he be 100% healthy?
Yeah.
He has been dealing with injuries all season long. You know, it's going to be so important that he is performing at his best, because he's going to be kind of like that glue for Spain, but he's also going to be the one that everybody's looking out for as well. So he's really got to find a way to, first off, be healthy, be ready for the tournament, but then also, can you find a way to bring the rest of your players, the rest of your teammates, get them involved, bring them into the game, so that, you know, when you are getting targeted, which he will be, your other teammates can find a chance to capitalize and push Spain through.
100%. And the reason I brought up, which I don't even know if I finished it, the Wemby and the Spurs comp, is because Wemby is that guy for the Spurs, and he's so young. He's 22, and he doesn't have kind of that veteran on his squad that he can lean on, that is good enough for, you know, to kind of submit to in a way. And yeah, I just think, I don't know what's in the water in Europe with these European athletes, but they're just, not only are they so good, they're so mature.
Yeah.
And Yamal is very mature, and he's proven on the biggest stages in European soccer, that he can rise to the occasion and be the best player on the field, maybe in 99 out of 100 times.
Yeah, I think that these young players nowadays, they're not only, you know, reaching peak physical performance, but the mental performance as well. They're reaching another level. They've got this vision and this intelligence for the game that is superseding players who are 10 years older than them. And it's not necessarily because they know more, it's that they're knowing more quicker, right? So they're at that same level, but they're 10 years younger.
Yeah, which is incredible and is kind of scary for the future. Not in a bad way, in a great way. I'm excited. All right, let's kind of round out our top four. Niamh, tell me the rest of the three teams in your top four, and if there's one team you kind of want to circle in on, we'll do that real quick.
So I have France beating Portugal in the final, and then I'm going to talk about Portugal a little bit more. I want to go into them a bit. And then my third place game is going to be between Spain and England. I have Spain coming out on top of that, as much as it pains me to say. I think it really is going to be a toss-up between these two, because there have been so many question marks around Tuchel's selection. Until we see them play, you know, we're recording this now before their friendly against New Zealand, and then, you know, to see how they do in the group stage. Croatia is going to be a big test for England to start off with. And then we look at Spain as well. Like, you've got Yamal, he needs to be healthy. Rodri's having some struggles right now. I think it will be a very, very back and forth game, but I do think that Spain has the firepower to be able to come out on top of that one, get the third place. But Portugal is my dark horse team for the tournament. And, you know, Portugal is very highly ranked, but I think that they're a dark horse team because they're very often overlooked when it comes to the powerhouses of like Spain and France and Argentina and Brazil. Like, they're kind of in the tier below, but I think that during this tournament they can make a name for themselves. They're coming off of a UEFA Nations League win, beat Spain 5-3 on penalties. They've got Cristiano Ronaldo, and I think there's going to be a little extra chip on his shoulder. He's seen Messi now win the 2022 World Cup with Argentina. He's going to want that, you know, same prize for himself. So, you know, he's still coming off of 38 goals in all competitions this year. You've got Bruno Fernandes in the midfield, kind of taking charge of that third of the pitch, coming off of 28 assists in all competitions this year with Man United. The only thing that concerns me about Portugal, though, is their defense. They have so many big names, but if we look at the last 18 games that they've played since the Euros in 2024, they've only had 5 clean sheets.
Wow.
That's it. And they are going to need to do a lot more than that if you're going up against, you know, the best forwards in the entire world. So that's the one area that I think that Portugal, if they can figure it out, that's what's going to get them to second place.
Yeah, I think it's a fascinating narrative that's building because, as you mentioned, I mean, the debate my entire life has been Ronaldo or Messi. But this team's a little different. I kind of want to go. You mentioned the back line and defense and stuff as kind of a concern, but you convinced me to put them in second. I initially had them as the fourth place team, losing in the semifinal. But what specifically stands out with this Portuguese team? Because one thing that I really remember growing up is, yes, Ronaldo never won. He's never won a World Cup and has never gone that far, to be frank. But it's never really been his fault. He's done well. A few years ago in the 18 tournament, had a hat trick. And then the last World Cup was kind of weird because he didn't get along with his coach and he wasn't playing as much as we initially thought for such a superstar of his caliber.
I mean, I think he wants to forget the last World Cup as well.
Yeah, a lot of people do, especially Ronaldo fans. So what's different, specifically, if you want to go into a few players, about Portugal this year?
I think the experience that Portugal has now is much more than they've had in years past. But I don't think that in this World Cup, it's all going to be about Ronaldo. Like, I think he's going to be, obviously, the star player. He's the one that everybody looks for. But expect to see other players getting involved in well. I just don't think that we've been able to say that about Portugal in years past. Like, we're talking about Bruno Fernandes you've got Man U. You've got Pedro Neto coming in from a solid season with Chelsea. You've got Ruben Neves as well. You know, you've got Bernardo Silva from Man City, João Neves from PSG. There are so many players who have had brilliant seasons with their respective domestic teams who are coming into a lineup who are going to not only be able to help Ronaldo, you know, who's in that number 9 position, but are going to be able to produce for the team themselves. So it's not all going to be about, you know, that front man. The other players are going to play very important supporting roles, and you never know. Maybe one of them even supersedes Ronaldo and has a better tournament than him. It's a very big toss-up, but I think that just the depth that they have is so much more than in years past.
I love it. I think it's great for soccer. And if we get a Portugal versus France or a Portugal versus Spain World Cup, kind of new generation, again, a superstar against the guy who's been on the block, that'd be so cool. All right, let's go real quick. Best player. I mean, you have France winning it all. Do you have Mbappe as your best player of the tournament?
I would say that Mbappe is definitely going to be. I would think out of him and Dembele, it's going to be a tough one, but I would say Mbappe will definitely come out on top. I think he's going to take that leap, and I think he's going to push them through to that World Cup trophy.
Yeah, and I have Yamal. I think Yamal is going to solidify himself as undisputedly the top player in the entire world. He's really going to put himself on the map, not just because obviously soccer fans know who he is, but kind of the casual people that watch soccer every 4 years are really going to find out who this man is. So I'm excited. Now we'll talk about dark horse teams in this tournament. So Javier, I know you like Portugal, kind of. We talked about them as you thinking they're going to take a step up than most people think. But who's another team that no one's really talking about, or even if they are, that people are still kind of overlooking that you think is going to have a good tournament?
I think that Turkey could have a very good tournament. You know, they've not been in the World Cup for, you know, over 2 decades now. They're coming back in and they're coming in with a very, very young squad. I mean, you're taking a look at a Turkish team who's going to be led by Arda Güler. You've got Kenan Yıldız from Juventus. I think that the creative talent that Turkey has is going to be so crucial. I think they've got more creative talent than the U.S. in Group D. I see them coming out on top in Group D. And I think that for a young team especially, if they can get the momentum in the group stage to be able to pick up at least 2 wins, I could see them doing well, getting to, you know, round of 32, round of 16, maybe even the quarterfinals, depending on who they come up against. But when you've got players who are, you know, in their early 20s, all coming together to try and help a nation who has been absent from the tournament for 20 plus years, it is going to be so critical that they can bring that energy from the group stage into the knockout rounds. And if they do that, I would say watch out for Turkey this year.
I actually agree. I had them as one of my dark horses as well, and I do believe that their ceiling is the quarterfinal, and it's not – it wouldn't shock me, right? It'd probably shock most of the world. It wouldn't shock me personally. I think Güler who's playing for Madrid. A lot of people are saying this guy's a superstar. I believe it. A young guy. And they're a team that if they kind of catch fire, because they have so many young guys, sometimes like that lack of experience can be a good thing. Because when all you've tasted is success in the World Cup, in that moment, you start to, your head gets a little inflated in a good way. And I wouldn't be shocked if they catch fire. Another team, the team that I like as the dark horse of this tournament, other than Turkey, because I think Turkey's good, who I also think can make a quarters. And I really wanted to come up with a scenario where they would make a semi, but I can't do it. Is the United States of America. Is that bias? So biased, like 100% biased. I'm not going to hide the fact that it's biased, but I'll try to come up with, or I have tried to come up with a reason. And one thing, it's really just comes down to the fact that this should be the year. If it's not this year, when?
Hey, it's all written out for them. They should be making it.
Yes, and with this group, and we've been talking about it for years, and especially the people who keep up with USA or whatever, or most countries and their youth soccer tournaments and all that stuff. It was like with this group that's coming up for USA, 2026, the year we get the World Cup at home, is the year. And in 22, when we had a decent outing, which I believe we had a solid World Cup, everyone was like, this is a great stepping stone for 2026. And right now, you would think, if you haven't paid attention to soccer the last 4 years, that people still feel that way. They don't, because of how poorly kind of things have gone outside after that World Cup. I mean, the Gold Cup loss was brutal. And Pulisic not having a good 2026 by any stretch of the imagination, and we need him to be a superstar. But after he scored against Senegal, I was back on the train, and the fact that we beat a good Senegal team in a friendly, I think it's good. We'll see how this team looks against Germany. But the one concern I have is injuries, and the fact that this team is carrying 10 defenders, and it's because Richards is kind of hobbled, so they had to take an extra one. And we'll see how this team plays in the midfield. And Tessman not making the team is kind of a knock on this squad. But I do think this is the year because of the home World Cup. We saw South Korea, who's never been a prestigious soccer team, right, in 2002 at home with the right mix, kind of take off. I think Pochettino's a good coach, despite all the slack he's gotten. And Pulisic is going to break out. I think he's due. And we keep talking about the talent. I think this is the year that U.S. makes it to the quarters. I don't have them making a semi because they'll probably run into like a Spain or a France. But how do you feel about this United States team?
I think you've said it great, and I think that kind of talking about Pulisic, he needs to have a good tournament. You know, he got his one goal against Senegal in that friendly, and that was his first goal of the calendar year, and he went berserk with it. And you could just tell that's what he needed. So hopefully that helps kind of push him forward and he can continue producing for the U.S. in those group stage games. But you talk about it being, you know, written in the stars for them. Round of 16 on July 4th.
Yes.
In Philadelphia on the 250th anniversary of America gaining their independence. How is that not like a storybook?
And we can't lose that game. There's just no way.
It is written for you. Yes. Like the United States, you need to make it to that round because they have made this tournament for you.
Yes.
You need to be in that game. So pull your socks up, score some goals, get through the group stage, get through the round of 32 because the entire country wants you in that game.
100%. And if they get there, I don't see them losing. There's one player I want to talk about because we're a little bit on time crunch. Gio Reyna. I think he's got superstar qualities. Like, he's not a superstar. But, man, if this kid catches fire, have you ever seen him play? Look him up. I think he's going to be an X factor for the squad.
He is the only person I see on the U.S. team who can, when he's on, can reach the creative talent like I was talking about of those Turkish young players. If he can do that, look out for the U.S.
Yeah, and the issue with this USA team in years past has been having that guy that can make that one pass, right? Thread the needle and get through to score a goal. And I think Gio Reyna is that guy. Like you said, I love that term, creative. What is it? Creative.
The creative talent.
Creative talent. Yeah, I think he's got it. So Reyna is someone to watch for. If he has a great tournament, which I think he will, I kind of think we need that, and we will get through. Let's go. USA. I'm excited for this tournament. Now, real quick, early exit. We kind of hinted at it. Mine is Argentina. Yours is Argentina, but you also think Brazil.
Yeah, I'm thinking the South American teams are not going to perform as well as they should and are expected. You know, Argentina, pretty simply put, no team has won a back-to-back World Cup since Brazil did it in 58 and 62.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't see that. Argentina's dealing with a lot of injuries right now. Messi picked up, you know, a little discomfort after Inter's final game before the break. Emiliano Martinez, their number one goalkeeper, got a small fracture at the end of the season. Christian Romero is in his final stage of recovery from a lateral knee ligament injury. Are they going to be healthy? That's the biggest question. And then also the statistics just aren't in their favor. Brazil as well. Brazil's in a tough group. Like, you've got Morocco and Scotland in your group. You have to get through both of them. And I think that's going to prove to be a real challenge for them. Neymar being on the roster, to me, is just simply a spot to give him a nice send-off in the World Cup. I mean, he's been dealing with injuries. He's not had a great season statistically. You've left guys, you know, back at home. João Pedro, 15 goals in the Premier League. He was third on that list. Richarlison, I know that Tottenham had a terrible season, but he still had 10 goals. He was still producing. Both of those guys more than Neymar. So we'll see whether that comes back to bite them. But I think that in my bracket, I have the Netherlands taking down Brazil in that knockout stage.
Yeah, and this Netherlands team seems very good. I agree with you in Argentina. I think they're kind of in an awkward phase of their kind of the timeline where you got these young guys coming up. And Messi, who just won a World Cup, kind of riding him off to the sunset. And a lot of these guys necessarily haven't played together compared to the last team. So, yeah, I think also they're fine. They don't need to win. They're good. They're good, and they know that. So,
you got one. Let's give it to someone else now.
Yeah. I think they'll lose probably around the 16. All right, let's move on to what's going on outside of the game. A lot of analysis. A lot more analysis to come. We'll be covering this tournament throughout. From home, so Sam doesn't have to come to Seton Hall, who's here. Shout out to Sam, by the way, who's producing. But yeah, there's a lot going on in our area. We're in South Orange right now. We're on campus. A lot going on in New Jersey and New York. And so who's playing here?
So just want to start off by kind of telling you guys who is going to be playing at MetLife Stadium, East Rutherford, for these group stage games. So kicking it off on June 13th is going to be Brazil-Morocco. That is going to be an incredible game to watch. Then June 16th, also potentially Game 6 of the NBA Finals, which would be at MSG between the Knicks and Spurs. So if that happens, a crazy day for New Jersey, New York. That is going to be France versus Senegal, which will be another amazing game to watch.
Yes.
June 22nd, we've got Norway taking on Senegal. June 25th, we're going to see Ecuador versus Germany. And the one I'm personally looking for and constantly keep looking at ticket prices will be June 27th, Panama versus England. So 5 great games that are going to be happening in the New York, New Jersey area, and which Manny is going to tell you all about. A lot of great stuff happening outside the stadium too.
Yeah, because if those ticket prices aren't good enough for Niamh, she's going to have a lot of options outside of the stadium. And for a lot of you guys watching as well that perhaps can't make it to a game. We'll start with the World Cup 26 Queens Group Stage headquarters, which is going to be at the Billie Jean King National Tennis Center, which is where they play the U.S. Open, correct? Yeah, they do. So June 11th through June 27th. Go and check that out. Just look it up. Just look up NYNJ World Cup 26 Queens Group Stage HQ, and you'll find all the info in terms of times and games. At each game, there's going to be a watch party. And there's also going to be a ton of activity, so they'll open it up before things kick off.
Maybe
on
hit
the pitch.
Hit a Mets game as well while you're there.
Yeah, you can. So a lot going on. And then now after that, there is a fan village at the Rockefeller Center from Telemundo. July. Why'd I say Telemundo like that? Sorry. Anyways, July 6th to July 19th, and they are, quote, bringing the excitement of the world's game to Midtown Manhattan. The fan village will transform the heart of New York City into the ultimate watch party for fans from around the globe with a dynamic lineup of match screenings and programming. So Rockefeller, instead of there being a bunch of ice skating, which, by the way, it's summer, no one's looking to do that, there's going to be a pitch. And there's also going to be tons of screens and tons of things, tons of food, tons of things going on to enjoy the games. One of the things that they have over in that village is a FIFA museum. And one of the things that the museum includes in the exhibition is original historic objects from legends such as Pelé, Cristiano Ronaldo, and Messi. Other highlights include the 48 teams won prize installation displaying jerseys from all 48 participating nations, the historic Jules Rimet Trophy, a cinematic installation called, quote, The Final, and the Wall of Champions, honoring every World Cup winning player.
Insane.
Yeah, so it sounds like it's going to be big and pretty interesting. I personally love museums, so I might check that out. And then after that, one thing that we have about, 20 minutes from campus, maybe less, at Sports Illustrated Stadium is the World Cup 26 Jersey Fan Hub from June 19th through July 19th, which is, by the way, the entire tournament pretty much. Yeah. There's going to be concerts, and so check out the calendar for that. There's a family day on June 14th with Kids Bop Live. I didn't know Kids Bop was still around, but they'll have that. DJ Snake and Justice will be there on June 16th for the France and Senegal watch party, and Kygo with Kaleo, I hope I said that right, on June 22nd. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not the most pop culture informed guy, but yeah.
Kygo, if you're out there and you're listening to this, I would love some tickets. That would be amazing.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome, and most of the days are free except for the concert dates. It's going to be fun. It's going to be great for kids, too, to be in a pro stadium and be able to watch so much soccer. I'm excited.
No, New Jersey, New York is going to be hustling this summer. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on, and some other stuff, just some things that I've noticed on my Instagram, just 2 more things to kind of leave you with in case you're interested in doing some stuff. Champs is going to have a fan central station at 33rd Street in New York. There are going to be tons of giveaways. They're going to have DJs. They're going to have all the team merch that you can possibly think of. So make sure to go check that out. And then all the U.S. soccer fans, go to the pop-up store at 42nd Street too. Limited edition merchandise for Team USA, also in collaboration with New York City as well. Tons of customization opportunities. So many things to check out, many cool limited edition stuff and experiences going on. And I mean, everything that you just said, at some point or another, you will find me there.
As if Times Square wasn't already busy enough. Going to be a ton of people in this area. Do not go down the shore for a month and a half because you won't make it for 5 hours probably because we got games in Philly too. So South Jersey is going to be nuts. This was fun. That's pretty much all we got. This was fun.
No, this was amazing.
Yeah.
Great first episode. And, we've got tons more on the way. And we're going to be tuning into every single group stage, and we'll get back to you with everything we think about it.
Yeah, we'll be grinding the all 22 for the next month, watching all the tape and every single game. So I'll be glued to my couch. I'm excited. Niamh, thanks for the first episode. This is the Pirates in the Field podcast, World Cup edition. We will be back soon. So enjoy the rest of your day and get ready. Make your plans to embrace this World Cup the best you can because we're probably not going to get it back for another 30 years. So have some fun and take care of yourselves.